Coogs House. The Houston Cougars are represented by Forever Cougs in the basketball tournament, and they've got the most interestingly put together roster in the whole thing.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougs, daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth. And whether you're a Houston fan or just a hater came to step by, or that Donovan Smith fan that stops by all the time, or just someone who wants to talk about the basketball tournament, thank you for making Locked On Cougs your first listen of the day. If you want to join the conversation but don't know what to say, tell us in the comments down below if you like thick or thin crust pizza. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time, which is great because you can get tickets to the basketball tournament on Game Time. Great place to get lowest prices for your tickets guaranteed, but more on that later. Today's show is all about the basketball tournament. I want to talk some about other people you'll see there for other teams and how this is a big, big deal. I want to talk about some guys that may be showing new skill sets they've got going on on the team that represents Houston. I want to talk about some about the backcourt, frankly, that Houston has that should be fairly dominant in this as well. But I do want to take a moment before we get to any of that and talk about how this is set up as a tournament, right? So it's over 10 years old at this point. The basketball tournament's what it's called. And it's a field of, I think, 64 teams this year. It's been 64 teams the last couple of years playing a bracket-style tournament. And teams are represented by some common denominator typically. So Forever Cougs is almost entirely Houston Cougar alumni, a couple of smaller school folks that maybe don't have an alumni team in the field or whatever. But then there's the Nasty Natty team. Well, that's Cincinnati. There's Austin's own that Houston opens with. Well, that's UT Austin, right? There's also different causes that have teams. There's a group playing to raise money for ALS. There is a group that is playing to raise awareness and raise money for resources for autism, right? These different things across the board, and they all kind of come together, create people with these connections, create a team to play in this tournament. Now, there is a financial prize. The winning team in the tournament gets $1 million at the end of it. And then there's also other financial incentives, first of all, you're on TV playing basketball. Obviously, there's some incentive there, but there's also this, each region winner gets 25% of the ticket sales for that region. So there's incentive to win your region as well. There's a handful of different reasons why you'd make a team for this, but the Houston team was led initially, it sounds like, by Rob Gray back when this team got started for this summer. The tournament's being hosted, or the regional is being hosted in Houston at the Fertitta Center as well. And it's really a chance for Houston Cougar fans like you listening to this to go down and watch the Houston Cougars alumni play against other alumni like UT Austin's alumni. I think it's an interesting roster because I think the thing that binds this all together is that Houston's got a team that's known for playing really, really hard in a style of basketball. It's going to be really, really interesting. Most rules from the basketball tournament should not stick out as different. They have 6 fouls, foul outs, 9-minute quarters instead of 20-minute halves. They play FIBA rules off the rim for whatever that's worth, meaning that once the ball hits the rim, it's no longer goaltending if you touch it. The biggest difference is this Elam ending down the stretch. So after 4 9-minute quarters, they add 8 points to the leading team score, and then that sets a target score that you're now playing to for the game, right? So if it's, the Forever Cougs have 82 and Austin's own have 78, both teams are just playing to 90. First team to get there. Takes out the incentive to foul and stuff like that down the stretch of basketball game. Leads to pretty exciting endings, and it leads to and rewards playing hard. Houston's led by Rob Gray, Galen Robinson, Dejon Jarreau. These guys are known for, as a backcourt, playing hard. I know that's hard to quantify entirely, but This idea that the Houston culture carries through is going to be very, very present. It also, I think, is worth looking at, like, in an unorganized way. I don't mean to say these guys have never played together on other teams. They're, again, typically alumni, but there aren't formal practices for very long going up to this or whatever. And so if you're just playing as hard as Houston Cougar basketball cultures dictate these guys play, Rob Gray, Galen Robinson, Ladiki again, that's a big part of what's going to make them successful. Now, I should mention, and I want to kind of touch on several guys who've had strong careers post Houston. Rob Gray, we remember the scoring, but he also has become a great off the dribble shooter. He's one of the best off the dribble shooters I've seen. And looking through rosters, he's played the last couple seasons in France, Turkey, and Latvia, and has shot over 43% from three. And each of them was the 2021 EuroLeague Finals MVP while playing for Monaco. Really, really impressive roster guard at 6'1", right? I remember him as an electric scorer, and he kind of put Houston on the map nationally. More locally, Kelvin Sampson would tell you that Galen Robinson put Houston on the map, and he's also on the roster, right? Kind of the face of the U of H resurgence. He's, for what it's worth, he's guy Sampson says open the door to like make it cool to come to the University of Houston again, right? This idea like, okay, kids can stay home and play for this school at home and be successful, right? Galen's been mostly in the G League since he left Houston. A couple, up here for a couple days, up there for a couple days in the NBA, but really mostly G League guy with a couple stints in Germany and France. Currently playing for the Squadron, Birmingham Squadron, that's tied to the New Orleans Pelicans. Kind of like the Rio Grande Valley Vipers are tied to the Houston Rockets, right? And for what it's worth there, he's getting, the normal 10-5 kind of stuff that you'd expect out of him as starting point guard. I think it's been interesting in his G League runs. People have kind of paired him up with, okay, he's going to be the veteran, playwright guard. We're going to put our young guy down, 19, 20-year-old guy there down there for a month to play with them, and he'll pick it up, right? They'll pick it up playing the right way with Galen. Ladiki, Dejon Jarreau, he will be joining Houston whenever his stint with the Memphis Grizzlies Las Vegas Summer League team is over. They're 4-0, so they're going to play in the playoffs this weekend, so he won't actually be there Friday, I don't guess, and then be there later whenever that's over for him. He is playing in the G League as well. Obviously, he's been called up a couple times for 10 days here and there, playing with the Grizzlies most recently. They're called the Memphis Hustle as their G League affiliate. And he's going to bring a real intensity to play as to pick up 94 feet, etc. He's going to get you about 10 points. He's going to get you a handful of assists. They're all going to be on fast breaks because he's causing chaos defensively. This backcourt group is just so strong. You could add in the fact they had Wes Van Beck. They pulled in a couple guys from smaller schools like Chandre Jones from Richmond. They're going to add to this as well. But on the whole, they're really, I guess I should mention Eric Weary. Eric Weary. Eric Weary is a shooting guard coming in. They're really going to pride themselves on very clearly by the roster construction, playing incredibly hard, right? And you can win a lot of games in this thing playing incredibly hard because, honestly, the organization, it's not a pickup game like you'd run at the Rec or whatever, but the organization is not necessarily some teams that have had a whole lot of practice, right? They haven't had a lot of teams time working together and cohesion, putting in sets and actions and responses and so on. If you can just play really hard, you can mask a lot of that and frankly make up for a little bit of size. I think Houston's hoping, and then also dictate the pace. Playing at home at the Fertitta Center for the first 3 rounds, this cannot be overstated, right? That's going to be a big part of the success this Forever Cougs team has as well. And I think that's when we need to tell you that you have a chance to go see this in person, because you can go to Game Time, download the Game Time app today, and get last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed to anything. That's the basketball tournament. That's the Astros. That's WNBA games, anything that's going on this summer, football tickets this fall, whatever you need. But they also have concerts, theater, comedy shows, anything you need a ticket to get into in and around the H. They've got tickets on Game Time for it. So download the Game Time app today. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. I think my favorite thing, now that I think about it, with the Game Time app is that if I want to see what it's going to look like from my seats, I can say I want those two seats. What's it look like? And then show me the view from those seats in that venue for that type of event, in that section and row. It really, really helpful, really, really great tool. They also will refund up to 110% difference via credit for anything you see if you find something the same section and row for cheaper elsewhere. So again, last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Download the Game Time app today. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Term supply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. First time you download, they have this LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. So if the backcourt is going to be known by a bunch of guys that play hard, I wonder if the front court in this different, unique, kind of American, kind of college, kind of pro version of basketball is going to be dominated by guys that Houston's got that, frankly, you might honestly not have. The skill sets might change some, right? So Houston's headliners here are Fabian White and Justin Gorham. Fabian White and Justin Gorham are joined in the front court by a handful of other players. Devin Davis, right? Should be a familiar name. Devontae Pollard. Melvin Frazier comes in from Tulane. He's kind of a forward, kind of a wing kind of guy. Tulane has no team, so he's going to play with Houston nearby. Right. And then again, I think that Gorham and Fabian probably are the guys that we think of as like, oh, this is the headlining of the show. And I guess Fabian technically has played some with the Houston Rockets Summer League team as well, but they're not going to make that playoff thing. So if he can get there by Friday night, I bet he's back in town for it. Fabian has been a G League guy since pretty much he finished playing at Houston. He spent last season with Metro 92 in France. Metro 92 is the same program that produced guys like Victor Wembanyama and other pros in France. Pretty strong program over there. Last year he played 26 minutes per game, had 10 and 5. I think it's interesting to look at how his game has developed. He's shooting the three a little bit more, but actually shooting a bit lower percentage. Getting asked to do it more, shooting lower percentage. You know, I think that's kind of a wash, honestly. Justin Gorham kind of doing the same. Since leaving Houston, he's played overseas, but his game has kind of shifted some too. So he's played in Israel, Lithuania. He played in Lithuania last year for a really good team. 11 points, 5 boards, 2 assists per game. He, I guess, just signed with an Italian team in June, but he's also shooting about 34% from three now, both listed at 6'7", 6'8" on different sides, both about 25. I wonder if this is almost like an audition for their game translating to American basketball, American pro basketball, really, right? Like in American pro basketball, whether it's high-level G League stuff, NBA stuff, whatever, what you're looking at 6'7", 6'8", you got to go shoot the three ball, right? And they can come and say, like, listen, I can still do this. These games are televised. The first couple rounds are on the TBT website, and then it gets over to FSN and FS2 for a lot of the later rounds of the tournament. Always be able to find these guys playing. It's really, really, I think, important. First of all, you get to play with other alumni representing school, and then for Houston, you get to come play back at Fertitta. You know, again, you hope the crowd's great, and you hope that all drums it up. But it is a chance to kind of show off additions to your skill set that, you know, people might not have known you for. And they also fit in this idea where, like, Houston's going to play really, really hard. That's going to be what their kind of calling card is going to be in this. They're not the only four. I guess I mentioned a handful of the forwards. One guy I didn't mention a second ago, but I want to talk some about is Tashawn Thomas. Tashawn Thomas started at Houston and actually transferred out at 6'8", big, strong. I guess one place I saw I had him at 6'9" in Europe, but I guess you grow when you go to Europe sometimes. But Tashawn transferred out when they fired Dickey and they brought in Sampson. Actually, I think technically said he was going to transfer before they said they were going to hire Sampson, and then stuck to it. He and Daniel House did that. You'll remember it kind of really were like big talents before Sampson came in, and people wondering what the team was going to look like. Clearly, a decade later, Sampson really turned the program around, and things have been going in the right direction for several years now. And both guys, I think, in a moment of honesty, realized that they could have been at the start of that and didn't get to be at the start of that. Right. Tashawn had a great write-up. Duarte wrote it for the Houston Chronicle. But he's been playing professionally ever since, right? Ever since he went from Houston to Oklahoma, was Big 12 newcomer of the year. Oklahoma went to the Sweet 16. You know, all things went well there, you would have thought. Goes to Europe, plays Europe, Germany, Italy, some in Israel, back in Italy. Then he's been in Australia for a year, I think, somewhere in there. Somewhere I saw him in a Perth jersey. In Israel, he did win league MVP, finals MVP. And he's had a great international career. But in the Duarte article, it sounded kind of like there are moments where like he kind of thinks, what could have been? Look at what Sampson's done. Could I have been a part of that starting it earlier, or been there earlier, or just had my name tagged into what's happening here? Kind of like Rob Gray or Galen Robinson or Marcus Sass or Quinn Grimes, whomever, right? And he didn't sound bitter about it or anything like that. It certainly felt like he doesn't necessarily he didn't express, like, use the word regret, but it does sound like, LeBron Barnes is assistant coaching this team. It sounds like LeBron kind of gives him a hard time, right? It sounds like there's this kind of like sauce where it's like, oh, what could have been, almost. And I appreciate, frankly, to Tashawn's credit, like, he addressed it and got it out in the open. It's like, no, we don't need to not talk about this. Like, he started at Houston and left, as opposed to other guys, coming into Houston to play for Sampson. He left before the whole thing got started. I do think that a guy that's played professionally for this long will be good for this roster, in and out, on and off the floor. But he's played a lot of international basketball, and played at a high level internationally as well. And I think that's things he'll bring off the floor to help this team in a timeout or in a tight spot, right? I don't know what his playing style looks like in the present tense. I know he's a big, strong, bruising rebounder. We'll see what the game looks like in 2024. But I think that his presence will be felt in a lot of ways off the floor. And I kind of think it's a cool way to kind of give back to this school that, honestly, when you look at his international stuff, a lot of it says that he's an Oklahoma alum because that's where he finished, right? That was a little bit bigger national visibility for him. And I think it's cool that he's using this as a way to get back to Houston. Now, admittedly, Oklahoma doesn't have a team, so I guess it wasn't necessarily a tough decision for him. He wasn't like fighting between two phone calls. But I do think that there's an interesting layer to this where it's like, okay, can he be a part of like helping Houston kind of continue to spread, like, hey, look at who all these people were before that Final Four run, right? Like, there was a program before that too, right? Anyway, I like the front court. I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of games these guys are playing. Are they playing out beyond the arc? Are they playing down by the rim? I kind of think it might surprise you in some ways. The other thing that's going to surprise you about this is high-level basketball. And I want to talk some about who else is there to kind of help stress that point, because the Houston Regional itself is packed with talent. So, Houston Regional. Houston gets to host Regional this year at the Fertitta Center. I believe it's Friday, Sunday, Tuesday. There are games being played there. The Forever Cougs group is playing, I guess, Friday. If they win, they play Sunday. If they win, they play. It keeps on going, right? But a lot of talent to be seen there. As far as Houston folks go, we mentioned a lot of players. I should mention that Lawrence Pay is coaching the team. He's on the staff, I believe, at Sci-Fair. He might be the head guy at Sci-Fair. He's also a player development guy in Houston and is in charge of a high-level Adidas brand girls basketball program as well. He's coaching as a Houston alum. Other Houston alum involved in coaching in this, Zamal Nixon. I think he was 2010 or 11 at the University of Houston. I should probably know that when recording, right? But Houston alum, played basketball, obviously. He is on the coaching staff for the team that is playing to promote awareness and gain money for resources for people with autism, right? And so cool to see him also popping up as you're looking around. The Houston Regional has obviously the Forever Cougs. They tip off on Friday night against Austin's own, a UT alumni group. They in the same region, they have the Enchantment, which is a New Mexico alumni team. Onco the Bronco, a Boise State alumni team. Team Challenge ALS, playing for ALS money to go toward research for ALS. The program NYC for Autism, again, that's the Autism Awareness and Resources group. The LA Ignite, group of people from Southern California, like the region, not like the school. And then Bleed Green, which is North Texas, both the region and the school. On these teams, a lot of names you might recognize, some names that might pop up nationally. I think it's worth pointing out Austin's own, the team Forever Cougs play on Friday night, has three names to pay attention to. Cam Ridley, I don't think necessarily had the big national audience as a basketball player, but he's a load. He was 6'10", 310 in college, and I'd imagine that's more than 310 now, but I don't know that, right? We all gained some weight after college, right? Big, strong guy. We'll see what he looks like in this. Kerwin Roach just finished for them a couple years ago. He's been in the G League and stuff like that. I think someone said that he's recently played in Lebanon. When I was looking through stuff for this, he was a very quick guard for Texas once upon a time. I don't know what he looks like anymore. I was surprised to see that he was still playing, but he is still playing pro basketball. Keontae Kennedy actually just finished playing college basketball at Cal Berkeley, and he was at Memphis before that in 2022-23. Houston played him when he was at Memphis. Obviously, I thought those Memphis teams were pretty good. It took a Jamal Shed buzzer beater to beat them at their place, right? Like those were always fun matchups. Keontae Kennedy is on Austin's own as well. So that's pretty, they have other names that you could go through, but those are some guys to keep an eye on in that first match at Friday night. Another guy from that 2022-23 Memphis team, actually, Kyle DeRicci, Akabundu, Yogu. I'm gonna have to get that right if they play him later. On the team playing to challenge ALS, he was on the same Memphis 2022-23 team, Akabundu Egu. He's not in the NBA or G League, but he is currently playing in Germany. Just 2 years out of college, still playing pro basketball overseas. He's a big, 6'10" guy. On that team, though, this is how wild the talent is. They got Darren Collison, 13-year NBA vet, UCLA All-American, and NBA and NCAA champion. Darren Collison's on team challenge ALS. Again, he's a little bit older, obviously. He's not prime of his career, Darren Collison, but very, very impressive. Other names that thought were impressive were on LA Ignite. Remember, I guess he played for the Rockets for a hot second. Ty Lawson, 10-year NBA career, played some overseas since. I think he's currently been playing in Venezuela. He'll play basketball forever. And I'm sure he kind of probably sees this as a way to get back on the radar of some people in the States, maybe. He's playing for LA Ignite. You remember before that 10-year NBA career, which included longer stints with a couple of teams that weren't the Rockets, but did come through Houston. He was a college basketball champion and ACC Player of the Year at North Carolina, right? Not the biggest of guys, but a very impressive guard. They do have a big guy in LA Ignite, though, that you might remember from if you've seen the show Last Chance U. Big 7-footer named Brian Penn Johnson, like 7'1" on LA Ignite. He's the guy that like starts off at LSU and then goes to UW. Ultimately ends up at Last Chance U for one of the seasons they played basketball in Last Chance U, and then finished at Cal Poly. He's 7'1". He's long. Fairly recent college graduate. Like he's an intriguing guy to watch in this as far as guys that Houston could see. And again, LA Ignite's in the same region. The other team to watch in the region, as far as team success, probably Mean Green. Mean Green got all the way to the final last year. Again, that's North Texas, both the university and the region. Jordan Stevens was first team all tournament last year, and they in their runner-up effort. Brandon Jefferson was MVP of the tournament last year, played for a different team, but this year he's playing for Team Mean Green. So guys, keep an eye on, again, talent in this region for sure. As far as how Houston's going to handle this, I think the fact they have so many guys that are currently playing some level of pro basketball, and not like low level, high level pro basketball. A lot of guys coming off of those 2018, 19, 21 teams not that long ago. They were in college basketball. You're playing at home in Fertitta. Go to Game Time and get tickets so you can help get the crowd big and booming. I think that this is a great way to see Cougar alumni, names you know and love, playing in incredibly competitive situations. I'm excited about it. We're going to cover it a cool way this weekend. Buddy named Mike Brown, who hosts other sports podcasts and stuff like that. He'll be in person doing some of the coverage kind of stuff in person, going back and forth, and then we're going to chop it up throughout the weekend about how the Forever Cougs do. We're both excited about it. He covers more pro sports and stuff he does typically, and he's a U of H alum, and so we kind of thought this would be kind of a cool way to he does pro sports stuff, I do college stuff, and we get to do that kind of thing together. Anyway, it's a fun time. At some point, maybe it's this weekend, maybe it's next week. I kind of thought it would be by now. We have an AD thing to announce, I guess, whenever that happens. So you want to hit subscribe so you get the latest on that when it comes out. We have a football season to get ready for. The Big 12 is constantly in flux. Basketball season's around the corner. I know it's hard to say, but they're already been working out for weeks and weeks at this point. Olympics, there'll be plenty of Houston Cougars in the Olympics to cover as well. All kinds of things for the Cougs. So hit subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit the bell so you know when we go live. Locked On Cougs is a proud member of the Locked On Podcast Network. For a second listen of the day, I'm going to recommend Locked On College Basketball because clearly I'm in a basketball kind of mood. Again, Locked On Cougs, proud member, Locked On Podcast Network is your team every day and forever. Go Cougs.